Hello, hello. Hi, Jen Liddy.
Hi, Celi.
I love that we all call you, like, I started calling you Jen Liddy because I was introduced to you as Jen Liddy. And then everybody in our community started calling you Jen Liddy, and now it's a thing.
I know, because the name Jen is such a generic vanilla name. So I like that I'm Jen Liddy. It's totally
You're
fine with
Jen
me.
Liddy. It gives you the fame and me and power and all the things that you deserve. So, thanks for chatting with me. We're going to chat
Happy to.
about your experience inside Gab Accelerator.
Mhm.
That's cool with you?
Yes.
Full disclosure for everyone, Jen is one of those people who's now moved into Gab CEO, and she's in Gab CEO, and she's also faculty of Gab CEO because she's brilliant in her own right in what she does. And I found it was a gap for my clients in our advanced program. So she is our messaging. What should we call you? You're like our messaging maestro.
I love that. Yes, it's good.
And everyone comes to you with their messaging woes.
Hmm.
We're going to talk back about why did you originally join Gab Accelerator? If you can remember what was going on in your business that intrigued you about joining.
Yeah, so I've been at that stage of kind of like circling the drain is a little too dramatic for what I'm about to say, but it was a lot of circling of like, I know I have this expertise. I know I could have a business that's doing more for me rather than me feeling like a servant to my business. Um, and I just kept feeling like I was on this dreadmill, is what I call it, right? Like the dreadmill to nowhere.
You're
And
so good with words. I'm like, oh, I have to write that down. The treadmill to
the
nowhere.
treadmill to nowhere. And then every time, like a shiny object, which there are no, dearth of shiny objects on the internet. This new thing comes up, and you could try this, or you could try this tactic, or you could do this strategy, or and eventually I was like, I don't even know what I want anymore in my business. I don't even know if I want this business anymore. It just was kind of sucking the life out of my life. So when I heard about Accelerator, the first of all, the style of how it's run is very interesting because it's 4 intense days. It's not done over 8 weeks. So to me, that feels like we're going to do intensive work, almost like a cortisone shot, right? Like you're going to do intensive work. Um, and you're going to get something out on the other side. So it's a humongous investment of time and energy up front. That was different to me. I really liked that you could get this done in 4 days. Like, and you're telling me in the other side of 4 days, I can know what I want, I can know how to get there, and I can have a tracker, like a dashboard that actually like shows me where the holes are, where I'm falling off the cliff, what I don't have to do anymore. So that was a big decision point for me because I've done many, many, many 3 month or 8 week programs that some have been great, some have been not so helpful, but momentum falls off. So I liked that in 4 days, I put the time aside. And so that was a huge decision point for me that it was going to be not, not, not fast because it doesn't feel fast, but it is deep and it is powerful. And so that was a big thing for me. So besides like feeling like the swirl, wanting it done, um, those are my two big problems at the time. I just didn't want to go another 2 or 3 months dicking around with my struggle.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for saying that and bringing that up because I used to do it as an 8 week program, and I, as a coach of it, got frustrated
Mhm.
because I could feel the places where people would drop off and where the momentum would drop. And also there's places where people subconsciously run away or hide.
Totally. I could see that. Hmm.
And then so then I always say I'm addicted to the result. Like I want the result. Get me the result. And I was like, well,
Hmm.
I can't convince people to come back this week and they
Right.
really have to do this. And so one day somebody said to me, by week 5, I stopped kind of showing up fully because I hadn't done the work and then I felt
Yes.
behind. And I was like, we're just cutting that out.
Yeah.
I
It's
do
like
not
it's like
like to.
built-in momentum.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I could really see how the type of work that the accelerator makes you do would make, I mean, there were definitely points where I was like, oh my God, I have never thought about this. I don't know how to do this. This is hard for me. I don't like talking about this part of the stuff of my business. Words all day long, messaging all day long, clients voice of like all of the voice of customer stuff all day long. But then we start talking about the other parts, the money, the pricing, the sales, the forecasting. Like I would, if it was drawn out over 4 days. But this is like, the Band-Aid, you just like rip it off and then it's done. On the other side of it, you're just like, oh, like a literal sigh of relief on the other side of it.
Was there, other than that, was there anything that surprised you about the experience? Did you have
Yeah, I
like,
don't know if we have enough time to like talk about all the things that surprised me. Um, a lot of, by the time you get to the six-figure point in your business and you've been in it for a really long time, you have a lot of information already. You know a lot of shit. And so it's like a cesspool. It's like swirling around, swirling. You cannot sort through anymore. What should I be doing? What do I want to do? What don't I want to do? What shouldn't I be doing? Like, so I was surprised at how laser focused I was able to get through through just the 4 intensive days. I mean, I don't know how you do it, but you move people very swiftly through these 5 different points that we have to go through. And they're big points, but you're able to I was able to get very laser focused in each one. By the time we left each section, I was not like, oh no, I'm not ready yet. I don't know. Like I always knew. And you do like this amazing job of helping people get to that laser focused point so they are ready for the next to swing to the next branch of the tree, really is what it is. I felt very complete. So I was surprised at how much of the cesspool information that I had, I was able to like drain and let go of so that I
mm,
could just shine the light on exactly what I want. I was like, oh, it's just this. Now I can move on to the next thing.
yeah.
Oh, it's just this. Now I can move on to the next thing. And it was just like that on repeat throughout the whole session.
Yeah. I've never thought about this until hearing you talk, but actually I realize like I'm forcing you
Yes.
guys to think the way I think. What I'm secretly doing is I think like an engineer and I'm
Mhm.
like, what are the pieces that we need? And like, let's remove and let's do. And so I'm like putting you
Okay.
in this, incubator experience where I get you to just like think like an engineer about your business.
Think like an engineer, but not do what you do. So I never felt like anybody in the room was cookie cutter. There was no tract housing in this program. Like everything was a bespoke build. It was
Yeah.
very I learned how to think more like an engineer for my business strategy, but I never felt like I had to do anything anybody else was doing in the room. And that was really cool. There's no one size fits all for sure.
Definitely. Did you have any particular aha moments about your business?
I just don't have to work as hard as I've been working. I just don't have to do all of the things. I got permission, almost like permission from myself, which is where it always really needs to come from, right?
Mhm.
To have a business where I don't have to do things I don't want to do. So I personally, for context, which I know you know, but somebody listening might not, um, I have no desire to have a big group program. I don't enjoy holding space for a group of people. I really enjoy working deeply one-to-one with people in short bursts. And I kind of got permission to see how that could work as a business model, both in terms of who I want to attract to me, what I want to offer, and how to price it. Actually,
Yeah.
not both, all three. But that was a huge shift for me because if you're only kind of swimming in your own cesspool of information and experience, and everybody else is doing this thing, and so you think, I have to do this thing, it was very refreshing to go through those 4 days and be like, actually, I don't have to do it that way.
Yeah. I love
And I
that.
can still be successful.
That makes me so happy.
It made me happy too.
You're like, yes, you and me both.
Yes, both of us.
And you actually, so this, a lot of people don't know this about my program, which on the internet, this is a crazy thing to say or do, but I give people lifetime access
Yeah.
to coming back, not necessarily getting coaching the second time, but if you want to come back through and just sit in on the trainings and sit through it again, you can. So you're one of the people who did that. do you want to talk about like why you came back through a second time and sat through the trainings again? And also
Yeah,
what your experience of that was?
absolutely. I also will say I have, like, I know when you're doing your upcoming ones, and I've put it on the calendar to come back for the upcoming because it's like this self check. If you like put these on your calendar, it's like taking yourself on a business retreat almost, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So the first time I went through, I stayed for the whole thing. And you know how you can, there's a difference between understanding something and knowing something.
Mhm.
Uh, I understood all of it, the 5 parts that we needed to understand, the 5 pieces that we went through. I understood it, but I knew parts 1 and 2 and maybe part of 3. When I came back a couple of months later, I had done all of the work that I needed to do because it's very like tiered, right? Like you do the first thing, it's almost like a domino. You do the first thing that leads to the second thing that leads to the third. So once you like know steps 1 and 2 and 3, you can put them into play. Then I came back because I wanted to know steps 3 and 4. And then when I come back again, I will know steps 4 and 5, right? So if we think that we can turn a hard, like make a 90-degree turn in our business and like just overhaul everything with a hard left or a hard right. It just doesn't work that way because everything is so iterative. And so being able to come back helps me continue the iteration or the evolving of what's happening in my business. I like put it into play, go away, put it into play, use Gab CEO, your like, your second level program, put it into play, but then come back and like reorient myself. So that's why I find it valuable to come back. And I think everybody who's done it should come back because they've been out in the wild playing with it and they probably need some reintegration.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's true. Like even just that it's a great practice, the practice of coming back to your plan and your strategy
Yes.
plan and your numbers every quarter. You kind of should be
Yes.
doing that
Yes.
in your business anyway. So this is also a great way to do that. People always say, "You're crazy. You should charge for that. You should upsell them again every time they come." And I always say, "Well, my theory on that is I love what I do and I'm in it for the long game.
Mhm.
So my ultimate goal isn't to just keep making money from you right now, like what's right in front of me. My ultimate goal is that you build a business that is sustainable, profitable, that you really love and enjoy. You're hitting the revenue that makes you feel good. And because what that creates is people out in the world going, oh, yeah, the grown ass business, that program is why you see me so happy and
Brilliant.
fulfilled by my business. That to me is like
Yes.
leaning into the long game of my business. It's like I could make another $1,000 from you right now, or I can invest in believing in the methodology I've built and believing in you and knowing that you're actually going to use this, you're going to build that business. And when you talk about me and my program, you'll be like, oh yeah, that's the shit you need, right? And that's why I
I
do.
Yeah, and the other thing is if in the moment you're like, okay, we're coming up on another Gab accelerator this quarter, would love to have you rejoin. It's $1,000. Okay, great. It's worth it. It's a bargain. But in my head, I would be saying, yeah, I already know that. I already know what I already took it and I have the information and I should just do it on myself. It makes a friction point
Yeah,
versus come in, enjoy the experience again. And then like you get to go like, I don't know, like another 100 yards, right? Another 100 yards in your business,
right.
go further. And I didn't have any friction points of coming in again. It was just like more impactful. And again, it's like long-term relationship building, which I think is necessary for where we are in this phase of living. That it's it really created a lot more trust between the two of us for sure.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I love that. What would you say today? Where are you with your business, your pricing, your offers, and how you're feeling about your business now? Like, what is your result and takeaway?
I streamlined my offers. I knew, so I decided who I wanted to work with. So in my first accelerator, I was like, okay, this is who I'm working with. This is my magic. I don't have to do all the magic. This is just the magic that I'm really magical for. And leaning into that, which gave me a lot of freedom. And like, I no longer have to do this, that, and the other. I just had to do my magic. And those were like two very specific things now. And that was very freeing for me. So it was more like energetically, I got a lot of space and time back mentally because I wasn't kind of thinking like, I have to do this and I have to do this and I have to do this, right? Like it was like I could take a deep breath rather than a shallow gasp for air. So first of all, and I need everyone who's listening to understand my goal was to have my life back. I want to make money, but I knew that with everything that was going on in my life, I couldn't if I didn't have better offers, better pricing, and a clearer view of who I wanted to work with and how I wanted to do it. So that was the very first thing. Like, this is who you're working with. This is what you're doing. This is what you're calling yourself now, right? So rather than being a vague like content creation specialist, I am a brand voice and messaging guide. Like I'm here to guide you into your messaging and your brand voice so that you can position yourself. And that's like huge freedom to me. I don't have to like figure out Instagram anymore. I don't have to, like write your emails for you anymore.
Yeah.
Um, and the second thing it did was it helped me feel extremely confident about raising my prices.
Hmm.
So,
True. Yeah, I forgot
I,
about that. Yes, we
oh
did.
yeah. And positioning myself as this specific expert so that when I do meet people and I say, this is what I do, they're like, oh, you need to meet this person, or you need to talk to that, or that person needs to talk to you. So sometimes when like you and I will box, or I'll be like, maybe I should do this thing and maybe I should, you're like, no, that doesn't bring you closer to your goals. That doesn't, like, that's not what we decided. That's not on your strategy. I'm like, oh, right. So it's the other thing that it does is it saves me from myself, which is what I think all of us need, is saving from ourselves, because we have the ideas. What we don't have is time, energy, or capacity. And so it gave me more energy, more time, more capacity, more clarity, more confidence, like an immense amount. Like I really feel like an expert and that I know what I'm talking about. And one last thing I want to say on this, which is I really don't know how you do this because I couldn't do it. You in a group setting are very good at holding space for people without any one person taking over in the group, and you are able to see everybody's business. I don't know if you ever sleep, but I hope you sleep. But the way that you are able to like know everybody's business so deeply and keep it all straight, that's the other thing. It makes being in the accelerator didn't feel like I was in a group.
Mm. Okay. Thanks. Thanks for
Hmm.
saying that. I
Hmm.
appreciate that. I do go to bed at night and then like lie in bed going, did I answer everyone's questions? I want to make sure everyone got attention. Like that's the thing that keeps me up at night. So now you know my secret. I do sleep. I am a sleeper, but that's like what stresses me out right before going to bed. I'm like, I need to go into school and make sure that there are no open messages and I've answered everyone's questions. And if I haven't, I'll like vouch for somebody and go, I haven't forgotten about you. So that is like the thing that stresses me out. And I think that's because there's so many group programs where people
Hmm.
aren't seen and don't get attention. And I hear that so much from people that I want to make sure that I'm just answering a trend that's been happening in the business
Yes.
industry, answering it and doing it differently. That's just my goal, to be
My
different.
favorite, my favorite takeaway though is there's no one right way to do it. You're not, when you have a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. And you're not a hammer, Sally. Like you don't come at
Yeah.
everybody's business with the same approach, making us bend ourselves into a pretzel to build to meet your thought of what it should be. And I found that very refreshing.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, I think I grew up kind of, I feel like, and I think we all did in some way, if you were educated and you went to school, you were told how you had to do things.
Yeah.
And I just don't like being told what to do. And I really hate when culturally or religiously or education wise, you're told, well, that's just how it is.
That's
You have
right.
to do it that way.
That's right.
There is a little rebel inside of me that goes, but do I have to do it that way?
Yeah.
And so I think that's just in my nature. When someone's like, I hate Instagram. I don't want to be on Instagram anymore. I'm like, cool, let's
Okay.
scrap it. Let's do something else. And people are looking at me like, really? I'm like, yeah, really. Will it work? Yeah.
Mhm,
And I'm
mhm,
like, I know, I get it. I felt that way my whole life of being told, well, you have to go, you have to do it this way. You have to go to this school. You have to get this kind of job. You have to like marry this kind of person. You have to like do it by this age. Right. And I was always just like, but why?
mhm.
Why? Or, you know, I mean, I have stories for days. So I think that's like because I don't appreciate that when people are just like, I don't want to do this. And this is what my old coach told me I have to do. I'm like, cool, let's create another way.
For me as a Gen Xer, that's how you grew up. I never was a rebel, right? Like, so I'm a good German girl. I will follow the rules. I'll do what you tell me. I'll get the good grades. And so it really wasn't until I got into my 50s that I started to kind of rage against the invisible box and start to ask these questions and even start to believe that there was another way. So it was a lot of undoing and unwinding before I could get to this place where, and honestly, I think it's just from years and years and years of doing stuff that just wears you down to a little nub where you're like, look, if I want to stay doing this, there has to be another way. So I feel like this point where I met you, where I happened to meet you at the right time.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know if I had met you at a different time in my life, if I would have been ready for the freedom that creating a strategy and an implementation plan. I don't know that I would have been ready for it because I would have still believed that I'm supposed to or I should. So it's just like this beautiful nexus of I was ready to do it a different way and I was open to hearing what that possibility might look like. And then I met you with your potential and your solutions and your dashboard and your approaches that completely are customized to me. So, what I want to say to anybody who's considering this is if you are not ready to believe that there is not one way, and you are ready to believe that it's okay to walk away from maybe some other things you've tried before and maybe some other programs you've been in, then you're a good fit for Accelerator. But if you're still hoping that somebody's going to give you the one right way, their one right way, I really want to disabuse you. A, that's not the right, you're not ready for this program. And B, there actually is no one right way. There is your way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely. Um, I couldn't have said it better myself. I probably wouldn't have because you are definitely the wordsmith. So, yeah, I was gonna ask you what would you say to somebody, but that is a perfect ending. And I always tell people when people come to me and say, I don't think I'm ready for you, I don't, you know,
I
there's this
do.
whole industry training on like objection
Yes.
handling and how do you turn an objection around and how do you, and I always go when someone says, oh, I don't think I'm ready for you, I'm like, then you're not.
Mhm.
And that always stuns them too, which I find really
Yes.
interesting. I'm like, and that's not a game. I'm not tricking to you.
Mhm.
If you believe that you're not ready for me,
What are you
then
going to do about that?
who am I gonna go? Who am I to go up against your beliefs? They have
Totally.
been running you your whole life,
That's right.
right? Like, who am I to
Right.
change that around?
Yeah.
And I find also, if it's useful to anyone, when you do try to really convince someone to do a thing, but they do it with hesitancy and reluctancy, they're not actually going to get the result
No.
anyway.
They're going to be looking for the cracks.
Yes. And
Mhm.
I'm more interested in the person who's like, I'm ready. I need this to work. Like, let's make this work for me. I've tried the other formulas. I've tried all the like one trick ponies. I've done the guru stuff. I've read the content books. I've read the business books. I've read them all too. I'm ready
Mhm.
to make this work for me. And then I'm like, cool, let's go. Let's play.
Yeah.
So yeah.
One last thing I would say for people, because it's kind of hard to believe when they meet you, like, is she for real? And I have to say, like, I am not interested in phony baloney bullshit. And you are very much for real. You say things straight out. I mean, I'm a 54-year-old woman. I'm not interested in beating around the bush anymore. So I love when people are straight with me. And I really admire that somebody I could be straight with. Like, you're not afraid to say, no, don't do that. It's not on your strategy. Like, that's the reason why, versus like, I don't think you should do it, but here's the reason why. So you always are straight up front. And then the other thing that I really appreciate is you are a connoisseur of information. You have an incredible depth of information. That's not how I operate. But
Yeah.
you are, I know you're 5 on the Enneagram and you go really deep into your silos of information and you have an incredible breadth of knowledge and an incredible depth of knowledge. and you know how to parse it out without fire hosing people. And I think that is the mark of a Enneagram 5,
Mm.
who's also kind of got this ability to coach people. Um, and I just think the marriage of those two things makes it very fun to work with you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thanks. I really appreciate that. You've all heard it. I'm very much an Enneagram. I didn't know that about myself. I didn't guess that about myself. And then I took the like official test and it was like
Mm.
very much a 5. And I was like, oh, that actually
No,
makes sense.
totally, totally.
Yeah, such a 5. So, okay. Thank you so much. I
My
appreciate
pleasure. I hope
it.
it helps somebody decide to take the accelerator.
Thank you. I hope so too. And if not, it's always lovely speaking with you.
Okay.
Selfishly, I got to keep you for 25 minutes. So, yay. Thanks.
You're welcome.